Palpatine's whole deal was absolute power, a one-man show running the entire galaxy. But what if the Dark Lord of the Sith had been forced to share his throne with someone, either by politics or just sheer necessity? The idea of a true Co-Chancellor is completely alien to Palpatine's way of thinking. The one time he offered the job, it was to Darth Plagueis, right before he killed him. But today, we are ranking the top 10 Co-Chancellors for Emperor Palpatine, from both canon and legends. Their scores will be based on their loyalty, political smarts, military genius, and even their own secret agendas to figure out who could have actually ruled beside the Emperor. Kicking off our list at number 10 is Janus Greejatus, a classic fixture of Palpatine's inner circle. He was a holdover from Palpatine's days as a senator, and at his core, Greejatus was a political schemer and a bureaucrat. His main job was to be a loyal suck-up, a guy on the Imperial ruling council who handled the daily grind so Palpatine could focus on his dark side hobbies. As a co-chancellor, Greejatus would have been totally non-threatening. He had decent political skills and was super loyal, but he had pretty much zero military ability or personal ambition. He was the definition of a yes man, great at dealing with all the red tape, but completely lacking the spark for true leadership. In Legends, he even started the Imperial Department of Redesign, a team focused on oppressing non-human species. While he's useful, he's just too generic to rank any higher. He's the baseline for a loyal but boring subordinate. Next up at number 9 is another one of Palpatine's robed advisors, Ars Dangor. A senior figure in the Imperial court, Dangor was a dark side fanboy who'd been with Palpatine since his early senator days. In the legend stories, it was actually Dangor who officially promoted Wilhuff Tarkin to Grand Moff, which shows you the kind of administrative power he had. Like Greejatus, Dangor's biggest strengths were his loyalty and his bureaucratic mind. He was a reliable part of the Imperial machine, a perfect yes man who knew how the government worked inside and out. But he also didn't have any real military experience or a commanding presence. His value was in his ability to fill administrative gaps and do what Palpatine wanted without asking questions. He's a small step above Greejatus because he had a higher rank and a more direct hand in big appointments, but he still doesn't have the wow factor for a top-tier co-chancellor. Sliding in at number 8 is Agent Alexander Kallus of the Imperial Security Bureau. Early in his career, Kallus was the perfect Imperial. Smart, fiercely loyal, and a seriously capable field agent. He was an expert at anti-rebel operations and had a solid mix of military skill and political awareness from his ISB work. As a co-chancellor, early days Kallus would have been a huge asset for keeping order and crushing dissent. This guy wasn't just a desk jockey. He had hands-on experience. The problem? And yeah, it's a huge one, is his potential to defect. His eventual turn to the rebellion proves he has a conscience, something that just doesn't work with Palpatine's regime. That underlying risk, the fact that he could be turned, makes him way too unreliable for Palpatine to ever share real power with, landing him pretty low on this list. At number 7, we've got the ever-ambitious director Orson Krennic. Krennic's main value was his technical know-how and his obsessive drive to finish the Death Star. That obsession gave Palpatine the ultimate tool of fear. Krennic's loyalty was all about his massive ego and his desperate need for the Emperor's approval, which made him pretty easy to control. But Krennic's ambition was also his biggest flaw as a potential partner. His constant political fights, especially his rivalry with Tarkin and Vader, were a huge source of drama and instability. While he had some political skill, he mostly used it to make himself look good. He was a yes man with an ego, the kind of guy who could build you a planet killer, but couldn't be trusted to play nice with others in the sandbox. His innovation was valuable, but his personality was a major liability. Breaking into the top half of our list is the former Jedi Master and Sith apprentice, Count Dooku, also known as Darth Tyrannus. Dooku was absolutely critical to Palpatine's master plan. As the charismatic face of the separatist movement, he had elite political skills, was a master with a lightsaber, and deeply understood the galaxy's political game. During the Clone Wars, he would have been an incredibly effective, if temporary, co-chancellor. He was the perfect public leader for the bad guys, a necessary evil Palpatine could keep on a leash. The problem is, Dooku was always just a placeholder. He was a tool with an expiration date, destined to be tossed aside for Anakin Skywalker. He wasn't a true yes man and definitely had his own ambitions, which made his long-term loyalty a big question mark. Powerful and politically skilled, sure, but ultimately disposable. We're halfway through our list, and the contenders are only getting more powerful. Do you agree with our rankings so far? Who do you think will take the #1 spot? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into Star Wars what-ifs, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss the final countdown. Now, for a real deep cut from Legends lore, we have Sate Pestage at number 5. While Amedda was the Grand Vizier in canon, in the old expanded universe, that job belonged to Pestage. He was Palpatine's closest confidant, a man who stood by him from his days as a senator, all the way to his resurrection on Biss. Pestage handled the day-to-day operations of the Empire, managing Palpatine's schedule, and even tasting his food for poison. As a Co-Chancellor, Pestage was the ultimate administrator. While Palpatine was off studying ancient Sith secrets, Pestage was basically running the Empire. He had rock-solid loyalty, incredible bureaucratic intelligence, and was the very definition of a yes man who knew his place. He didn't have any military power, but his political skill was all about pure, efficient government. His only real weakness was that after Palpatine's death at Endor, he didn't have the commanding presence to hold the Empire together himself, but as a deputy to a living emperor, he was nearly perfect. Snagging the #4 spot is the Chiss strategic genius, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Thrawn's value to Palpatine was totally unique. He arguably had the sharpest military and strategic mind in the whole Empire. His method of defeating his enemies by studying their art was just on another level. He was loyal and brutally efficient, bringing order to the Outer Rim with brilliant tactics, not just brute force. So why isn't he higher? Simple, Thrawn was no yes man. His loyalty was to the Empire and its stability, not necessarily to the Sith or whatever Palpatine personally felt like doing that day. Palpatine valued his non-Force user perspective, but was also cautious of his independence. Thrawn's logical, analytical style could easily conflict with Palpatine's more mystical, dark-side-fueled plans. He'd be an amazing partner in wartime, but his independent thinking is a variable that a control freak like Palpatine would never, ever fully trust. At number 3 is the Emperor's most iconic apprentice, Darth Vader. After Mustafar, Vader's loyalty was almost absolute, bound by pain, fear, and a twisted sense of purpose. His military power was unmatched. As a Force user and commander of the 501st Legion, he was Palpatine's ultimate enforcer. He could crush Jedi, scare entire systems into submission, and lead armies with terrifying skill. His mere presence was a political weapon of intimidation. Here's the thing about Vader. He was never meant to be a co-ruler. He was a weapon. His simmering rage and emotional instability made him a terrible political partner. He was not a yes man and constantly pushed back against his master's authority, always carrying the potential to one day overthrow him, as is the Sith way. Plus, his focus was on enforcement and hunting down Jedi, not the boring day-to-day tasks of running a government. Invaluable as an enforcer, but too much of a blunt instrument and a direct rival for a real co-chancellorship, just narrowly missing the top-tier spot. We have the architect of the Tarkin doctrine himself, Grand Moff Tarkin. Tarkin was more than just an ally. He and Palpatine were kindred spirits. Friends from even before the Empire, they shared a core belief in ruling through fear and absolute order. Tarkin was brilliant, ruthless, and had incredible military and political skills. He governed huge sectors of the galaxy and was one of the very few people who could give Vader orders. As a co-chancellor, Tarkin would have been almost perfect. He had Palpatine's complete trust, unquestionable loyalty, and the drive to carry out their shared vision without needing to be micromanaged. He was basically an extension of Palpatine's own will. The only thing that keeps him from the #1 spot is that he didn't know Palpatine's biggest secret, that he was a Sith Lord. This small gap in knowledge and his dismissal of the Force as a sad devotion meant he was never truly in the absolute inner circle. All right, before we unveil our #1 pick, we have to talk about a couple of honorable mentions. These are the wild cards. fan favorite characters who are a bit too unconventional or unpredictable to make the main list, but too important to ignore. First up, Mara Jade, the Emperor's Hand. In the old Legends timeline, Mara was Palpatine's personal Force-sensitive operative. She was fiercely loyal, skilled, and could carry out his will from the shadows, hearing his commands from across the galaxy. As an asset, she was incredible. But as a Co-Chancellor, it just doesn't fit. Her role was secrecy. She was a hidden weapon, not a public administrator. She had zero political experience and was trained for espionage and assassination, not governing. While she had the Emperor's trust, she was a tool for a specific purpose, and putting her in a public leadership role would have been a waste of her unique talents. Our second honorable mention is the Director of Imperial Intelligence herself, Ysanne Isard. Also known as Iceheart, Isard was as brilliant as she was ruthless, a master of psychological warfare and intelligence gathering. She was incredibly effective and kept the Empire's enemies in a state of constant fear. The problem is, her loyalty was purely to herself. Isard was consumed by a desire for power, and in the legend stories, she made a major play to take over the Empire after Palpatine's death. She's the definition of a rival, not a deputy. Palpatine could use her, but he could never, ever trust her with a position that would give her a legitimate claim to his throne. She was a predator waiting for her chance to strike. And coming in at number 1, the most perfect, logical, and effective co-chancellor for Palpatine would have to be the Grand Vizier himself, Amedda. This Chagrian politician was the ultimate insider. He served as vice chair of the Senate under both Valorum and Palpatine, helping to orchestrate Palpatine's rise to power every single step of the way. When Palpatine declared himself emperor, Amedda transitioned smoothly into the role of Grand Vizier, overseeing the entire Imperial government. So what puts Amedda at the top of our list? It's his perfect storm of traits. He had absolute, unwavering loyalty. He had masterful political skills, able to manage the Senate and later the whole Imperial bureaucracy. Most importantly, he knew Palpatine was Darth Sidious and actively helped him, even taking part in the ceremony to destroy Jedi lightsabers. He had zero ambition to rule himself, serving as a powerless figurehead after Endor. He was the perfect complement, a loyal, competent administrator who handled all the public-facing work while Palpatine ruled from the shadows, making him the only person in the galaxy truly fit to share the throne. So there you have it. From loyal paper pushers to master strategists, these are the people who could have stood beside Emperor Palpatine. He used advisors, he had apprentices, but he never had an equal. The seat of power was his, and his alone. But what do you think? Is Amedda the rightful number 1? Should Tarkin or maybe even Thrawn have taken the top spot? Let us know your top 10 list in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Take care for now. Peace.